June 24th, 1994, Disney released its 32nd animated feature film. Expectations were low for this film, and Disney put their B team on it with low expectations, and they put their A team focusing on producing a movie called Pocahontas. The feature film that they had actors like Jonathan Taylor Thomas, James Earl Jones, Matthew Broderick, and Whoopi Goldberg, to name a few. The budget for the film was $45 million. With expectations being low, Disney was just hoping that they could break even with the product that they are putting out. In the opening weekend, this film produced $42 million. Later, it ranked in over $422 million domestically and $968 million worldwide. This film won multiple awards with 2 Oscars and 43 other awards. Right now, IMDb has it ranked as the 36th best movie of all time. This movie was a hit. The movie was about a lion cub who was in line to be king, and his treacherous uncle tricked him into thinking that he caused the death of his father. The young lion fled into exile only to learn in adulthood his identity and his responsibility. Most of us in this room have probably seen this movie. I would say most of us has probably seen it more than once. The movie that I'm talking about is The Lion King. Simba, halfway through the movie, found out that there was a bad situation that happened, so he fled from the situation, and on the journey, he met 2 individuals. He met Timon, a meerkat, and Puma, a warthog. These 2 characters were very interesting, but they tried to lift the spirits of their new friend. They came up with a song called Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata is a Swahili word, and it means no troubles or no problems. But I like the way that Timon and Puma put it in the movie. Part of the lyrics for Hakuna Matata go like this: Hakuna Matata, what a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata, ain't no passing craze. It means no worries for the rest of our days. It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata. Today, I want to echo the words of a meerkat and a warthog, and I want to encourage you guys today that as you walked in, it might have been bleak and it might have been hard, but today I want to encourage you that you're going to walk out different, and we're going to live these words. That's not just going to be another phrase or another slogan, but this is going to be a part of our identity. Hakuna Matata. Why don't you high-five 2 people next to you and tell them Hakuna Matata? You see, the older I get, the more I realize how difficult life can be. The older I get, I realize how hard life is. Life is unfair. Life can be tough. Life can be dangerous. Life doesn't play by our games or our rules. Life doesn't show up by our schedule. Life shows up when it wants and how it wants. But the older I get, I also realize that my God is still faithful. My God is still on the throne. My God is still Alpha and Omega. My God is still the beginning and the end. My God is the one who set the world into motion. My God can speak in an instant and your life can be changed. My God can show up and show off whenever you desire Him to. My God's not afraid of what you're going through or what you're facing. My God's not afraid of the... I'm feeling it. My God's not afraid of the diagnosis. My God's not afraid of the banker. My God's not afraid of what the devil's saying in your life. My God is still the King of Kings, and He's still the Lord of Lords. My God's not afraid of what you're going through, but Hakuna Matata. I'm going to get excited. I'm going to get pumped up. I'm all worked up. I'm sweating already. I got to bring out my hanky. I know what you're thinking. Is this crazy bald guy just going to yell Hakuna Matata at me this whole service? Yes, I'm gonna. Because I hope it downloads in your soul that whenever you walk out here, whatever you're facing, you're going to make it through that. No matter what you're looking at, you're going to make it through that. If God's able to bring you to it, He's able to bring you through it. Now, I got some good Bible for this lesson. In the 18th book of the Bible, we find the story of a man named Job. And I need someone to help me today to be Job. Let me look across the crowd. I'm looking across the crowd, looking across the crowd. Mike, hey, it's good to see you. Mike, would you like to come help me? Everyone get up for Mike. Come on, Mike. He didn't know I was going to do it. Mike, hey, it's good to see you, buddy. I'm glad you showed up to church today. Yeah. Oh, you might not be after this. Hi. Would you mind putting on the beard and the blouse? I'm not helping you. That'd be weird. Yeah, go Mike. Let's do this thing. Just don't rip it. That's what I'm working with. Put it on, Mike. Everyone say, put it on, Mike. Don't rip it. Oh, it's like I'm working with my sister's kids. Come on, man. Help me out here. Thank you, Mike. You look amazing. In the 18th book of the Bible, we get the story of a man named Job. And if you look at Job chapter 1, verse 1, I think they're going to put it up on the screen for me. It said, in the land of Uz, there was a man who was named Job. The man was blameless, upright, feared God, and eschewed evil. The Bible's giving you the characteristics of this man. In verse 2, we find the blessings of Job. Now, it's so amazing to see how God prioritizes this. He didn't put the blessings of Job first. He put the characteristics of Job first. This is what happens in today's society. We judge you off of how much money you have in your bank account, how many assets that you have in your name. But this is what God's trying to get to us. I want to look at the character of the man. I want to look at his heart and see who he is. He wants to drill down and know what you're made of. And there's some of us that we need to push the bank account aside and say, I'm good with God, and if I'm good with God, it doesn't matter on this level. I don't care how many zeros you have in your bank account. As long as you're good with God, you're a success in God's eyes. And so here we have Job. He's an upright man. He was very wealthy, very humble. This is your story. And in Job chapter 1, verse 8, here's God sitting up in heaven. And he says that he called the sons of man unto him, and devils showed up. And he looked at the devil, and he said, hey, devil, how you doing today? The devil says, well, I'm just going up and down the earth, just looking to see what trouble I can make. And God looks at the devil, and he says, hey, devil, have you considered my servant Job? You want to talk about the faith that God had in Job. You see, I wonder what God would say about us. Hey, devil, have you considered my servant Johnny? I can imagine as the devil sitting there saying, no, I don't have to worry about that guy. I got him. Like, there's no problems with him. I can take him out any time I want. But the devil looked at God and said, hey, God, it's not fair. You got a hedge of protection around him. No one can touch him. I can't get close to the guy. I can't touch his body. I can't touch his possessions. I can't touch anything in his life. You got him protected. And Job's sitting there saying, man, this is amazing. This is awesome. But the devil looked at God and said, if you remove that hedge, I'll knock him out. I'll take him. He doesn't have a chance if you remove that hedge. God said, okay, I've got faith in my servant. He removed that hedge, and the devil threw everything that he had at Job. Will you fix your beard? That's weird. Threw everything that he had at Job. In 24 hours, Job had the worst day of his life. One servant came running up to Job and said, hey, Job, listen, I know you're a very busy, important man, but there's a problem we got going on. Someone just stole all of your oxen. They're gone. You don't have any more oxen. I can imagine as Job sitting there saying, well, those were good oxen. Like, they were good. Then as that servant finished, another servant came up and said, hey, Job, listen, sorry about you, but while we were out in the field, fire fell from heaven, and it killed all of your sheep and all of your servants. Sorry, dude. Now, look at this. He got one bad news, and then another bad news, and then more bad news. Another servant came up and said, hey, Job, my bad, dude, but they're camels that you had. Those got stolen as well. So you lost your oxen, you lost your sheep, you lost your servants, now you lost your camels. Think about you in that situation. Think about how much wealth you have in your life, and all of a sudden someone comes up and tells you, Charles Schwab calls you, hey, sorry about you, all your retirement's gone. All of your money's gone. Could you imagine how you would feel in that moment? He was probably angry. He was probably frustrated. He was probably not happy. But then his day gets worse. The Bible says the servant shows up. He said, hey, Job, listen, I know you've had a bad day, but it's about to get worse. All of his kids were over at a dinner party. The Bible says a mighty wind came in, and it knocked the house down, and the house crushed everybody in the house. It's one thing to lose money. It's another thing to lose a kid. And this poor guy just lost everything he had. I can imagine as the devil is sitting over there looking at Job, saying, I got him. And I can imagine as the devil's excited that, oh, he's about to turn his back on God. He's about to curse God. This is going to be amazing. I just knocked this guy out. Got him. Job, you out. But then look what the Bible says in Job chapter 1 and verse 20. Job chapter 1, verse 20. And at this, Job got up. It said that he tore his robe. Thank you, Job. It said that he shaved his head or his beard. You're doing great. You're doing awesome. But watch this next verse. It said that he fell to the ground and he didn't fall to the ground questioning God. He didn't fall to the ground saying, hey, God, where are you at? Why didn't you show up and protect me? He didn't look at God and said, hey, God, I thought we were buddies. No, the Bible said that he fell to the ground, raised up his hands and said, God, you're still on the throne. God, you're still worthy of my worship. God, you're still worthy. Never will a rock cry out in my place. Never will a rock take my place in worship. He said the Lord gives and the Lord taketh away, but it's still, blessed be your name. I don't know what you're going through, but it's still blessed be his name. You might be going through a trial, but it's blessed be his. Come on. Whenever I'm down and out, I look at God and I say, God, where you at? Job said, God, I love you. Whenever I'm in a trial, I say, God, I need you. But Job said, God, I trust you. Whenever I'm facing the devil and I'm fighting him with everything I got, I'm saying, God, come on. And Job said, God, I'm right there with you. I don't know what you're facing or what you're battling, but I know a God who's going to be right there beside you every step of the way. I'm not beaten, I'm not broken, I'm not clobbered, I'm not conquered, I'm not defeated, I'm not destroyed, but I am victorious. Oh, I'm going to say that again for the people in the cheap seats. I'm not beaten, I'm not broken, I'm not clobbered, I'm not conquered, I'm not defeated, but I am victorious. You see, I still read in the Bible where I'm the head and not the tail. I still read in the Bible that, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because thou art with me. I still read that there's no weapon formed against me that shall prosper. I still read that if God be for me, who can be against me? You see, there's moments in our life where we fight the devil and we ask God to show up, and God's right there every step of the way. We get frustrated with God, but maybe it's God having faith in us. He had faith in Job that Job wasn't going to leave his side. But what about whenever we go through trials? Is God sitting there saying, man, I hope he doesn't quit on me. Hope he doesn't stop. Hope he doesn't throw in the towel. What would happen if God looks at us and says, man, I don't have to worry about them because they're plugged into church. I don't have to worry about them because they're a worshiper. I don't have to worry about them because they show up and show off. What would happen if we get a passion for God that lives inside of us that says, God, I'm going to live with you with everything that's inside of me? A lot of times, I find myself being in a relationship with God for the blessings of God. This. Allow me a little gratitude here. I find myself being in a relationship with God for being the blessings of God. But whenever trials come into my life, I run the other way. It's called spiritual fornication. I'm in it for the blessings. I'm in it for what I can get from him. But don't you ask me to enter into a relationship with you. I'm in it so I can feel good. I'm in it so I can get the goosebumps. But don't ask me to show up. And it's spiritual fornication. We don't want to put a ring on it because I don't want to be committed to it. But this is what would happen. What would happen if we get that desire to live for God and we push it through and we say, God, I want to see this world change. I want to see Amarillo impacted. I want to see my family have a relationship with you. What would happen if the church grabbed a hold of this mentality and said, it's not about me, but it's all about you? That you give and you take away, but it's still, blessed be your name. I know why we're all here. I know you're asking yourself, why are you preaching this morning? Appreciate you asking. I'll let you know. May 6th, 1995. It was a beautiful Friday evening. My dad worked at a Sarco, and he was on the swing shift. He came home this evening, and he was really excited. He was super pumped. He got to the house, and there was an energy about him. He was going around getting stuff ready to go. The next morning, we were going to wake up, and we were going to go fishing. My dad loved going fishing. Friday night, he got all the tackle boxes ready, got the rods ready. He was ready to go, getting the car packed up. Saturday showed up. We all woke up. I don't remember waking up, but I do remember getting to the lake or getting to that body of water very early in the morning. My dad was a very big believer that we get to the lake or we get to the body of water before the sun comes up and we start getting the lines in the water so we can catch some fish. We got to this body of water, and I remember my dad waking everybody up in the car. He said, hey, let's go. It's time to get the lines in the water. So we grabbed the fishing rods. We started throwing them in there. We got the bobbers on. We got the tackle boxes out. We got the bait. We got it sent in. We're ready to go. Sun comes up. We're in there fishing. I can't remember if we caught any fish or not, but what I do remember is that about 10 o'clock came, and I was done fishing. I didn't want to fish anymore. When I talked to my mom, I was like, hey, Mom, can we just jump in the water? Can we go swimming? My mom, who was also done fishing, she said, absolutely. So here you have me and my three siblings, or my two siblings, and we're jumping into the water while my dad is still trying to fish. If you know anything about fishing, you're not going to catch anything if there's anything jumping in the water next to it. My dad reels in the fishing lines, and he realizes that it's over. So he goes, and he starts cooking us lunch. We get everything loaded up in the car. We start headed back towards Amarillo. I remember laying down in the back of our green van, looking out the window, and I'm looking at the clouds, thinking to myself, oh, that kind of looks like a balloon or a dog or a dragon, whatever the imagination was of an 8-year-old boy at the time. We finally get home. My brother, he decides to go spend the night with a friend, and I asked my mom if my friends can spend the night. So I had one friend spend the night with me, and my sister had a friend spend the night with her. We're all at the house. It's me, my mom, my dad, my friend, my sister, her friend. We're sitting there, we're having a good time. I don't really remember what happened through the night. But my mom looked at us and said, hey guys, it's time to go to bed because we got church in the morning. Go to my room, I go to the bunk bed that me and my brother shared. I remember laying down, close my eyes. And the next thing I remember is I wake up in a field. My mom is standing over me. Rain is pouring down. She looks at me and she says, Gator, you all right? Looking up, I'm confused, I'm dazed. I don't know what's going on. She says, hey, if you're good, we got to get you up. We got to get moving. I reach up and I touch my chin. Got blood pouring down my face. Got a gash on my lip, my mouth. Tastes like blood. Side of my head is cut open. Blood's pouring down the side of my face. My mom's got my sister and her friend and my friend sitting right next to her. She said, hey, man, we got to go. We got to go now. This is bad. She said, we got to walk to my aunt's house. They lived about a quarter of a mile through a pasture. Through this pasture with stickers and cactuses. And she said, if you can make it, we got to go. We get up and we start walking over to a red Honda that was sitting there at my aunt's house. They had it turned on. They was ready to go. We got in the Honda and they drove down my aunt's driveway. And we get to the corner of Hollywood and Hope. We can't get out of the driveway because of all the debris that was blocking the road. The ambulance was out there waiting on us, but the road was blocked. They finally got it all cleared, and we were able to get to the ambulance. I remember they pulled us out of the car and they got us into the different ambulances. I don't remember the ride to the hospital, but I remember waking up in a room, and the room was all white. I looked over, and there's my friend in the bed next to me. His dad came through the room, and he was so excited to see his son and put his arms around and gave him a hug and said, are you all right? Yeah, Dad, I'm good. My friend's dad put his hand on my leg, and he said, hey, bud, you good? It's like, I think so. I'm 8. I don't really know what's going on. Then he said something that changed my life forever. He said, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. My dad was my superhero. He was my idol. I wanted to be just like him when I grew up. My dad talked to himself when he drove, and I talk to myself when I drive. I still want to be like him. He taught me how to throw a baseball. He taught me how to shoot a gun. He taught me all this stuff. He took me to Boy Scouts, took me to baseball practice and football games. I look at this man and I said, what do you mean? His face changes and he realizes that he just told me that my dad passed away. He said, I'm so sorry. He didn't make it. I close my eyes, and the next thing I remember, I wake up in this hospital room, surrounded by some family and some friends, and my mom's sitting over in the corner. She's all bandaged up too. I look at her and I'm saying, hey, Mom, can I talk to you? She cleared the room, and it was just me and my mom. I said, hey, how's Dad? She said, he didn't make it. Tears flowing down her face. The realization now that she's a single mother of 3 kids. And me being the youngest, looking at my dad as my idol. I was like, what do you mean he didn't make it? When the tornado came, he came out of the house to check the weather. He stood on the front porch. The tornado dropped right on top of our mobile home. I don't know where they found the body, he was dead on the scene. Tears are rolling down my face because here I am. This is my dad. Like, nothing can hurt him. He owns a gun. Like, he's good. I remember getting out of the hospital. We traveled to be with my grandparents that summer, and it was amazing to be with them. And we're sitting there, and after the summer ended, we had to come back to Amarillo. Got into a new house, and that's whenever the pain really started. That's whenever the hurt was real. I was in a bad place. I was angry. I was bitter. I was frustrated. I was angry at the situation, but I was also angry at God. Who's going to take me to play baseball? Who's going to take me to the father-son cookouts for the Cub Scouts? Who's going to be there to watch me play football? Who's going to be there at my wedding day? Who's going to be there? I was angry. My mom sent me up to go see a counselor. And listen, if you're in the house and you need help, please get help. There's enough people in this world that they can help you and they can point you in the right direction. You guys can make it, and we don't have to do it alone. We don't have to do it by ourselves, but you can make it. I hated going to the counselor. I'm telling you guys to go get help, and then I say, I hate going to the counselor. I hated it because it made me talk. It made me open up. My family is a very stubborn family. We don't like to talk, and I wanted to bury it and keep it down. It was very hard on my mom for me to be in this situation. Could you imagine seeing your 8-year-old going through that? They put me on Prozac as an 8-year-old boy. Watch this. Every morning I got to wake up, take a Prozac. It's supposed to make me feel better. It's a really tough situation. My mom did her best, and she brought me to church. We never missed church. We were always in church. There was one Sunday night, my mom was tired of fighting, and I fought my mom every day. She was tired of fighting. I said, hey, Mom, listen, I don't want to go to church today. I don't got it in me. She said, okay, I got you. You can stay home today. She said, if you have any issues, call me on my pager. That's how old I am. I was like, okay, Mom, you got it. I'll page you. My mom and my siblings left. While they were gone, I knew where the gun was. I knew how to load a gun. I knew how to rack one in the chamber. I went to my mom's room. I got the gun out. Set it right next to me. Sat on the bed. Grabbed the gun, sat it in my lap. I was ready to go. I didn't want to play the game anymore. I didn't want to deal with the hurt or the pain. I didn't want it in my life. And there's some of you here today that you're in the same spot. You're looking at your life and you're saying, man, I don't know if I can make it another step. I don't know if I got the strength inside of me to go one more day. It feels like every time I turn around, I'm getting attacked from every single side, and I'm trying to get my head above water just to catch a breath. But whenever I do, I get pulled right back down, and you're saying, it's not worth it. I can't make it. I can't get through this. But please listen to me today. You can make it through this. If God can bring you to it, God can bring you through it. You see, God's got a plan for your life, and he said, I didn't bring you this far to let you go. I didn't bring you all the way up here, Job, just to destroy you, but I brought you here because your end is going to be greater than your beginning. Job said something profound. He said, though God slay me, still I will trust him. you don't mind, for the next couple minutes, every eye closed, every head bowed, if you have the Holy Ghost, if you can just start praying right now. There's a sweet presence of God in this place, and God's dealing with someone's heart. God's dealing with someone's mind and someone's soul. And there's someone here today that you're battling and you're fighting and you're wondering if you're going to make it through this, and you're looking at that fiery furnace in front of you and you're saying, I don't know if I can do it, but let me tell you, the fourth man in the fire is going to show up and he's going to bring you through it. I know you might be hearing the roar of the lion's den, but this is what I'm telling you. You might have to go through the lion's den to get the testimony. You might be standing right in front of Goliath and you're saying, he comes at me with a sword and a spear, and he's talented, he's been tried, he knows how to fight, and you're sitting there saying, how am I going to make it through this? But listen to me today. You got this. You can make it. Hakuna Matata. You're going to make it through this. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and even though the enemy comes in like a flood, I know my God's going to raise up a standard against him. I understand what it's like to battle. The battle is real. The battle is hard. The battle is difficult. But this is what I want to say is God's got a testimony for you. We're made overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. The blood is the same for everybody, but it's your testimony that brings you through to the other side. When you begin to testify of what God's done, you start to magnify God and shrinking the problem. And you're here today saying, I don't know, but I'm here to say, you got this. As we stand all over this house, this is what I'd like to do for the closing portion. If you're here today and you're battling and you're fighting and you don't know how you're going to make it, would you please raise your hand? If you don't mind looking around, this is what we're going to do. I'd like you guys to join around with someone next to you and just start praying for them. Lay your hands on them. Pray that God would speak into their life, because you're not called to do it alone. You're not called to make it on your own, but there's a family around you who loves you and cares for you. If someone's hand is raised by you, would you mind just start praying for them, praying that God would speak life into their situation. Pray that God would start to minister into their soul. God, right now, we praise you, we worship you. If you don't mind, please raise your hands and start praying with me. We are asking God to move on someone's behalf. God, we love you. We thank you for this opportunity to be in your house and in your presence. And God, you see everyone that's here. You see the battle. You see the fight. You see the situation that they're in. God, you can make a way when it seems like there's no way. You can make a way when it seems like every other option is depleted. God, you can make a way and you can do it. And God, right now I pray, Lord, that you would touch every need in every situation. God, that you would speak life and life more abundantly. And you said where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty and there's freedom. And God, today I might have been stumbling in, but God, I'm walking out with my head held high because you got a plan and you got a purpose for my soul. You got a calling in my life. And God, I pray, Lord, that you would move on every situation today. God, I pray, Lord, that you would touch that mother who's struggling. I pray, God, that you would touch that dad who's battling. I pray, God, that you would touch that grandparent who says, God, I need you to show up. I pray, God, that you would move on their behalf, and God, that you would bless them and speak into their life. God, that you would bless that marriage, that you would bless their finances. God, that you would speak life into their body. God, that you would heal the brokenhearted and set the captive free. God, we love you. We thank you.